everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. So I recently realized that I haven't done that many trope recommendation videos, so I definitely wanted to remedy that, and I thought that I would kick this off by talking about one of my favorite tropes ever, which is the cinnamon roll hero in a romance novel. Now, a cinnamon roll character, in case you don't know, is basically just a very sweet and kind person. Obviously, these characters can be in all kinds of genres in literature, but there is just something about a sweet and kind man being the love interest in a romance novel. They are some of my absolute favorite heroes ever, and I've realized recently that I don't read nearly enough romances with this type of hero. Like, I was making a list for this video, and I actually thought that there would be more on this list. I'm definitely gonna have to do a part 2 though, because I have like at least like 30 on this list. I feel like in the last 6 months or so, I've been reading a lot of romances with more of like the grumpy hero or the kind of asshole hero that softens and becomes kinder throughout the story. But I really wanted to focus on the heroes that are just sweet and kind and wonderful from the beginning. Like I said, these are some of my favorite heroes of all time. So to start off this video, I definitely wanted to bring it back to the YA genre, because that of course was the genre that I was reading before I got into adult romances. And of course, YA books can have wonderful romances as well. So I just had to bring up these guys, these characters, because they definitely sparked my love for the cinnamon roll hero trope in general. So the first one I have to bring up, Peta Malark in the Hunger Games series. I mean, I really don't think I need to say anything more about Peta Malark. We all know and love the story, even if you've just watched the movies, like, you'll get his character, you know? But we also love a sweet and kind man who's also a baker. Like, come on, love that. Like, I could go on about his character for hours. I'm sure I could do a video essay about all of the things that I love about Peta, but like, let's just move on. Another sweet, sweet character I have to bring up is Jem from the Infernal Devices trilogy by Cassandra Clare. So this is a love triangle situation between Will, Jem, and Tessa. And one of the things I love so much about Jem is that not only is he so devoted to Tessa, his love interest, but he is also endlessly devoted to Will, who is another point in the triangle. But him and Will are very, very close friends. They are what is known as parabatai in this world. This is the Shadowhunter Chronicles series, by the way, in case you don't know. But in this world, you can bond yourself to someone else so that like you can feel when the other person is in distress or danger. You can also like combine your abilities with the other person, if I'm not mistaken. Like, there's a lot of benefits to being parabatai with somebody, and that's what makes this love triangle so gut-wrenching, is that these three people do truly love each other. And honestly, I think they would work well in a poly relationship, but that's definitely not how they were written in the books. But I'm sure you can find a lot of fan fiction with these three in a poly relationship. But anyways, we're gonna move on from that. But yeah, Jem is just so sweet, so devoted to the people in his life, just so freaking lovable. And then just to bring up a couple more YA cinnamon roll heroes, I have to bring up Sam from Happily Ever Afters by Elise Bryant. He's another one of those just sweet and kind men who also bakes. Wow, that is perfection to me. I just remember swooning over his character over and over and over again throughout the book. He's just sweet. He's absolutely perfect. Yeah, I could go on about him. And to round out my favorite YA cinnamon roll heroes, I wanted to bring up Adrienne Everhart from the Renegade series by Marissa Meyer. So this is a trilogy that is set in kind of a dystopian and futuristic society, and we have the renegades, which are the superheroes, and we have the anarchists, which are the super villains. And so our main characters are Adrienne, who is one of the renegades, and Nova, who is one of the anarchists. So Nova has her reasons for absolutely despising the renegades, and so she decides to go undercover and spy on the renegades by getting into their academy. And so there is a romance between Nova and Adrienne throughout, And Adrian, first of all, I love his superpower because he can draw things and they come to life. Like, I feel like that's such an interesting superpower to have. And he is just so sweet and endlessly devoted to his friends and family. And the way that he just falls so hard for Nova is kind of gut-wrenching because we know that Nova is supposed to be an enemy of his, but he doesn't know that. And yeah, it's a really great series. Highly recommend it. But Adrian is truly my absolute favorite character of that series. So now we're gonna get into the adult romance recommendations. Now, the novella that actually made me want to make this video in the first place, I read this kind of recently. This is Nerdgasm by Kimberly Reese. So Theo is like the perfect sweetest cinnamon roll hero ever. I adore this man with my whole heart, and he's not even real, but this centers around Theo, who is a TA, and then Allie, who is taking the class that he's TAing for. And with Theo, he's very sweet and shy. He's also a nerdy hero. He wears glasses. We love to see that. But one of the things I adored about him was that for their first date, he got them tickets to go to like a Comic-Con convention. And I feel like that is like the perfect date. Like, I would have so much fun going to a Comic-Con with someone that I'm attracted to. Like, that just sounds absolutely perfect and amazing. And Theo's also a virgin hero. I love that trope as well. Like, there was just so much in this novella and so much about Theo's character that I couldn't help but fall for. So yeah, reading this novella definitely gave me the idea for this video, and then I immediately had to start making my list of other heroes to talk about. And then another book I wanted to briefly bring up that inspired me to film this was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I actually just finished this right before filming, and as I was listening to the last part of this audiobook while getting ready to film was, oh my god, Daniel is totally a cinnamon roll hero. He is so sweet. He will do anything and everything to be with Alexis. I have some frustrations with Alexis's character, but like, Daniel is everything, and I just love that Daniel like totally is Alexis's like safe and happy place. Like, don't we all want that in our lives? Like, Daniel is just freaking perfect. Love him so much. So I had to mention him in this video as well. Next hero I have to talk about is Nate from Brooklyn Air by Serena Bowen. This is still to this day the only book that I have read by Serena Bowen. I've read a book that she wrote with Elle Kennedy, but yeah, this is the only book that I've read by Serena Bowen. This is about Nate. He is a nerdy hero. He has been pining for the heroine. Can't remember her name. I think her name's Becca, but I could be wrong. He's been pining for the heroine for like 7 years since she's been working for him. He runs a tech company, I believe, but he also is the owner of a hockey team. I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm pretty sure he owns 2 companies. Am I wrong about that? It's been a while since I've read this book, but really the way that he's been pining for the heroine for years, and I can't quite remember if she's been pining for him as well, but maybe she has, but like not nearly as long as he has. But yeah, he's just been like devoted to her for such a long time. And then when she finally learns this and realizes this, like, he is just everything you could want in a nerdy yet sexy hero. All right, my camera battery just died, so I had to go change that out, and so the angle might be slightly different. So there you have it. But next hero we have is Marcus from Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. This was the first book that I read by this author, and this book made me just fall head over heels for Olivia Dade because I've truly enjoyed every book that I read by her at this point. But Marcus, he is just so freaking sweet and sexy at the same time. He is an actor on TV. He's in this show that's kind of like Game of Thrones-esque, but he also writes fan fiction for the show, mainly because he's not really happy with how the show writers have been writing the show lately. And so he sparks this like online friendship with our heroine because they both write fan fiction for the show, but they end up dating in real life. Even though he's a flawed character and that he's keeping this big secret from her the whole time, like, I just could not help but fall for him. He is just like the perfect balance of sweet and sexy. And I also really appreciated reading about his journey and struggle with his learning disability. He has dyslexia, and so we get really good insight about how he struggled with with that growing up and how he's learned to live with that. And obviously he's very famous, so he's also navigating that as well. And there's also a really great scene at the end of this book involving a Comic-Con convention that really sticks out in my mind. So yeah, I love Marcus so much. Next up, we have a couple of heroes from historical romances. I actually haven't read a ton of historical romances with cinnamon roll heroes. I feel like it's much more common to read about like rakes or grumpy heroes, you know, men like that. But I do have a couple of cinnamon roll heroes that I would highly recommend from historical romances. So the first one is Garrett from Wild Rain by Beverly Jenkins. And this is the only cinnamon roll hero that she has ever written. And I just like loved his character so much because our heroine Spring, she is a strong, badass heroine. And Garrett is just like the perfect match and balance for her. I loved that he was just like endlessly supportive of her, and he just loved and admired her for who and what she was. And I also loved that, you know, by the end, Spring makes it very clear to him that she doesn't ever want to have kids, and he's totally okay with that. Like, we love that. We love when a romance doesn't end with the couple having kids. And then the other historical romance that I wanted to bring up is Beauty and the Blacksmith by Tessa Dare. Now, this is a novella in her Spindle Cove series. This one is about Erin, who is a blacksmith. And I can't remember who the heroine's name is, but she's a part of a family who, like, they're part of like the English nobility. And so it's expected of her that she would marry a man with a title. And so this is kind of a forbidden romance given that he's a blacksmith, but he is just the sweetest and sexiest hero. Definitely like one of my top favorite heroes that Tessa Dare's ever written. It was also just really refreshing to see a cinnamon roll hero from Tessa Dare, because more often than not, she writes more like grumpy heroes, which I don't really have a problem with that because I feel like she writes those heroes really well. But it was just really nice to see her write a really sweet man like Erin. Next up, we have what I feel like is the ultimate cinnamon roll hero. We have Archer from Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan, one of my top favorite romances of all time. Archer is definitely one of my favorite heroes of all time. He is just amazing. If you know nothing about this book, he is actually a mute hero. He's also a virgin hero. Like I said, that's also one of my favorite tropes ever. And we have our heroine Bree, who moves to the small town that he's living in. He's definitely a recluse. Like, people know Archer because he's been living there his whole life, but like I said, he's mute. He doesn't really go out into the town very often unless he like needs to get groceries or anything, but he just does his own thing. But the second he meets Bree, that starts to change. And I remember reading this book, like any little interaction that Bree and Archer would have, I would just be like internally squealing with delight. And Archer's like everything you could want in a love interest. I love his character so much. I desperately need to reread this book now that I'm talking about it, but we're gonna move on because I could talk about Archer forever and ever and ever, but I'm not. So next we have Ethan from The Intimacy Experiment by Rosie Danon. The basic premise of this is that Ethan is a rabbi and Naomi, our heroine, is a retired porn star. She now kind of co-runs this like sex education and like pleasure education company slash podcast. I don't really know how else to describe it. That was kind of convoluted. But Ethan hires Naomi to come give seminars at his synagogue about modern dating and intimacy. Basically, he's trying to attract younger people to the synagogue because the congregation's kind of dying out. And so she starts to give these seminars, these talks, and they start falling for each other. And what I love about Ethan is while he absolutely is a cinnamon roll hero in every way, he is so sweet. He's also very smart and wise. They have really amazing conversations about their Jewish faith because they're both Jewish, and about life in general. And I love how he challenged Naomi throughout the book. But he never, ever, ever judges her for her past or for her job or anything like that. He's amazing. And this is kind of random, but I was obsessed with the fact that he was slightly shorter than Naomi. You like never get that in romance novels. Usually the hero is like over 6 feet tall, but I loved that Naomi was actually a little bit taller than him. And I also loved that Naomi was like obsessed with his booty. Like, I'm here for that. I just love Ethan and Naomi both so much, and yeah, Ethan's just one of my favorites. Next up, I have to talk about Elliot from Sweet Talk by Cara Bastone. This is an Audible original audiobook. I feel like I talk about this romance all the time, but the basic premise is that this is like an oops, wrong number, but let's keep talking romance, because Elliot accidentally texts Jessie, our heroine, but they decide to start a conversation anyway that turns into phone calls and then something more by the end. And one of the things that I have to point out about Elliot that I love so much, first of all, he's just so just gentle and sweet and vulnerable, like emotionally vulnerable, and you don't get that a lot in romance novels. Now that I'm thinking about it, actually Daniel from Part of Your World, he is a very emotionally vulnerable hero as well, and I absolutely love that. But yeah, you don't get heroes like that all that often, but more often than not you will get that from a cinnamon roll hero, because sweeter men tend to be more emotionally available and open. But one of the things I absolutely adored about Elliot is that he is actually the author and illustrator of a webcomic. And so in the book, there is a scene where he creates a character that is inspired by Jessie, and he incorporates her into his webcomic. And I can vaguely remember that her character is just like this badass superhero, and I just think that's like the most amazing thing ever. Like, that is just so sweet. I'm pretty sure I like teared up at that part of the book. Next up, we have a novella. This is Deal with a Demon by Chase Verity. So this is a very interesting and unique novella. It is book 1 in a series. I definitely need to read the other novellas because I know that there's already a sequel out. I'm sure these are like companion romance novellas, and then I think a third one is coming out, or it might already be out. But this is like the sweetest demon romance you will ever read. Basically, there's this company where if you like scan the QR code with your phone, you basically hire a demon for a day or something, or like a certain amount of time, and that demon will do whatever you want it to do. And so our heroine is a single mom. She's got 2 kids and she's really struggling with raising them and also working and, like, you know, doing everything that a single mom has to do. And so when Dristan, our demon hero, shows up, obviously she's freaked out because, like, what the hell, this demon just showed up out of nowhere because I think her son was the one to scan the QR code. And but he turns out to be just like the sweetest demon ever, and he helps our heroine out with cooking and cleaning and raising her kids. And this is also just like a really sweet romance. And there's even a scene where like one of her kids comes out to her, and that's also a really well done and adorable scene. And yeah, like I could go on about this novella, but I'm just gonna say go ahead and read it if you are into paranormal romances. So next up, we have another novella. This is Hefty by Jessica Kane. Jessica Kane like never writes cinnamon roll heroes. There's only like one other novella of hers that I can think of that has a cinnamon roll hero. But Zach in this novella, he's everything. He's everything. So this is a new adult romance about our hero Zach and our heroine. I think her name was Jill. I could be wrong though. But they're both in high school. They're both 18. They're seniors in high school. She's on the cheerleading squad. He's on the football team. But he's also a bigger guy and kind of a nerd. And so while the hero and heroine have been friends for years, he just thinks that she's way out of his league. And she also thinks that he's way out of her league. So there's just like all this mutual pining going on. And Zach is just like the sweetest and most adorable guy ever. Love him so freaking much. Next up, we have Will from Big Bet by Cassie Mint. This is by far my top favorite novella that I've ever read by this author. And what's interesting is that when I was reading this novella, I imagined that this couple was kind of like the couple from Hefty by Jessica Kane, but like all grown up. Like they definitely give off a very similar vibe to the couple in Hefty. Did that make sense? I hope so. But Will definitely gives me Zach vibes. Like he is just so sweet. He's also a bigger guy. He also feels like the heroine is out of his league and vice versa. She doesn't feel worthy of him. But the premise of this is that they both work at this casino in Vegas. He's a blackjack dealer. She's a burlesque dancer. Once again, all the mutual pining you could ever want. And he is just the sweetest man ever. So we have just one more hero to talk about. Like I said, I will definitely be doing a part 2 at some point because I have so many more heroes I could be talking about in terms of cinnamon roll heroes. But the last one I'm going to bring up in this video is Reed in The Weight of It All by N.R. Walker. So this is an MM romance, and we have Henry, who has just been broken up with by his long-term boyfriend. Like they had been together for like 8 years, like a very long time. He breaks up with Henry mainly because throughout their relationship, Henry gained a lot of weight. So obviously this dude is an asshole, but Henry decides to get a personal trainer and to lose weight to try to get his boyfriend back. Meanwhile, Reed, our other hero, he is the personal trainer that Henry goes with. And they have the sweetest friends to lovers romance ever. And oh my God, Reed in particular, like Henry is also a very nice guy, but Reed is absolutely everything. He's like the best personal trainer you could ever want because he's just endlessly supportive of Henry, both as a trainer and as a friend. He truly wants everything for Henry. He just wants him to be happy. He never ever judges Henry for his weight or for his fitness level or anything like that. But I just loved that their romance started because they would bond over healthy meal recipes and they would go to the grocery store together. And Reed, like I said, he's just so supportive, so freaking sweet. He is just, once again, everything you could want in a love interest. And this is also just an insanely funny romance as well. So yeah, can't recommend this highly enough. So I hope that you guys enjoyed. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to discuss any of the books that I brought up in this video, or if you want to leave any more recommendations for this type of hero. I'm sure people watching this video would love even more recommendations. So with all that being said, I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! Zachary Weber narrates Daniel's POV, and I almost hit myself in the face. Okay, I will definitely be doing a part 2 at some point because I have a lot more heroes that I could be bringing up about. I can't speak anymore.